A very good Friday evening, Stats Race Lens users. Welcome to the Haskell Day SRL webinar and an unusual Friday get together, but that's because they run the Haskell on Sundays most often, and the field is set. Minutes ago in New York at Saratoga, Hofberg just won the Curlin, the first of the 3-year-old stakes that dot the calendar today, tomorrow, and then leading up to Haskell. We've got a fun hour and 15 minutes scheduled to look at this card. In addition to the Haskell, you've got a great undercard, turf, dirt, sprint, you name it, Haskell Day, absolutely terrific. And we've got an opportunity we're looking forward to and have been for a while. Christina Blacker joins us. Christina.
Hi there. I'm happy to be with you guys.
Great to have you. And we also, of course, say good evening to Ellis Starr. All right. Well, we said hello to Ellis Starr. He'll pop in here momentarily. Let's get a couple of things out of the way right off the bat. And it's the middle of the summer, and we've been promoting toward the second half of the year all through Triple Crown. And now that we're right in the middle of the summer, got a terrific quarterly subscription deal, 50% off, and 3 months, $149, 20 cards, just $30, 10 cards, only $17. Whatever version you want to take, if you're getting familiar, if you've just been kind of test driving Stats Race Lens, whatever way you want to approach it, we've got a really significant value. The promo code SRLQ50S, SRLQ, Stats Race Lens Quarter 50S. So mark it down. We're going to start our conversation really right away and right into the Haskell. We've got a lot of things about the product that are developing and new as always, and Ellis will bring us up to speed on that. And maybe now we can say good evening to Ellis Starr. Well, maybe not. Christina, we'll start with you. We'll circle back to Ellis, and delighted to have you join us and give us a feel for how you want to approach the mile and an eighth Haskell.
Yeah, no, so I've been using Stats for about 3 to 4 months now, and I have to say it is something that each and every day I've become more and more comfortable with. Really have enjoyed kind of being able to dive into some of the data more in depth and to find support for theories that I might have come across myself just sort of day to day as I have been doing my handicapping. So let's jump into the Haskell. And with just a field of 7 that we have to kind of go through, I'm going to go horse by horse and talk to you a little bit about what stands out to me and what I think you can use from a statistical standpoint to try and help you make a selection here. So we'll start with Lone Sailor, and forgive me guys, but Steve, I still see on my screen the summer racing offer. So we haven't jumped in via my screen just to the stats just yet. But one of the things I notice about Lone Sailor is that he is only a one-time winner in 11 starts. So right off the bat, that race coming over a sloppy track and a round one turn is a bit of a negative for me. But I did want to take a closer look at some of his recent races. And I'm not sure, Steve, are you guys seeing Stats Race Lens via your screens right now? Should I go ahead and keep going or wait until that kind of pops up via the web?
Well, Ellis must have gotten disconnected, is my guess, because he controls the screen. And I just sent a note over to Craig, and maybe Craig can kind of jump in and take control of the screen. But, certainly in terms of the angles and in terms of the various methods you use Stats Race Lens to identify potential in these horses, you can certainly talk about them, and then we'll catch up. And when the screen can show us, we'll go to it.
Sure. Okay. So with Lone Sailor, his last race in the Ohio Derby, he ended up a strong second on that occasion. He was only defeated a nose, and one of the features that Stats shows and really highlights for you are the Equibase speed figures, and they circle in green to really make that number kind of jump off the page for you so that you know that is one of the highest earned figures within the race or just the highest earned figure for that particular horse. So with regard to Lone Sailor, what I see from him is that he did earn his highest Equibase speed figure in his last race in the Ohio Derby. I like that because even though he's only a one-time winner, as I touched on, he seems to be a horse that is getting better right now. And I think each and every year you start to see these late developing 3-year-olds, the late bloomers, so to speak. And as they go ahead and put it together, this is the time of the season when they might overtake their more precocious contemporaries. And I'm seeing the stats screen come up now. It's not quite at full screen level just yet, but I can. Yep, there you are, Ellis. We got you.
All right.
Yeah, we got you.
I need our moderator, Greg, to give me the computer, and I can take over now.
Ellis, I was just touching on the last race for Lone Sailor in the Ohio Derby, and basically talking about how we saw from his Equibase speed figure that is his particular highest number that he has earned, and also one of the highest in the entire race. You can see it right there. I want to take a look at this race as well because I think it's worth noting via the replay just how he performs. He's a horse that, to me, runs in spots just a little bit. So we'll take a look at this race here. Lone Sailor, he's going to break from the 3 post. He's the number 3 in this field. He gets away just fine. Also out of this race is Core Beliefs, who's going to be the winner of the race, and he's also going to come back in the Haskell as they get a bit of a rematch. So you see Lone Sailor, he kind of drops back a little bit there. He's going to go ahead and tuck in along the inside and get a really nice ground-saving trip. This is all good, but again, I think he's a horse that he's just not ultra-focused. He's still learning. He's still getting better. He's going to go ahead and pick up a pretty decent trip, and it looks like throughout the race, to me, he seems as if he's going to be done several times over. He might just give it up at one stage or another, but he never really does. He continues to come on. Core Beliefs is in this race as well. As I noted, he is to the outside, so they're actually pretty close to each other. Lone Sailor is the 3 down along the inside, and then all the way kind of 3 deep in that pack is Core Beliefs, the 10, to the outside. So take note, Core Beliefs did have a much wider trip than Lone Sailor on this occasion. They're only going to be separated by a nose as they cross the wire, and Core Beliefs is going to overcome that wide trip to be the winner of this race eventually. But Lone Sailor along the inside there, he's going to go ahead, make a bit of a move once more under Irad Ortiz Jr. He does get the services of Joe Bravo for the Haskell this weekend. You got to love that. Nobody knows that track better than Jersey Joe. But right about here is where, and I thought, oh, this is it. He's done. He is not even going to get a piece of it. You can see Irad really kind of going to work on Lone Sailor, whereas Core Beliefs is making up some ground to the outside. He even jumps to his wrong lead at one stage right there, kind of jumps to his right lead as he's turning left. That is never going to help his momentum. So despite, the 11 race campaign, I think he's a little bit goofy, but right here is where he gets his mind on business. He splits horses. He dives through along the inside. In the meantime, Core Beliefs has sort of gotten the jump on him. But I do like this race from the top 2 finishers. I think it's a good effort from them both. I think Lone Sailor is really starting to put it together right now. But I think Core Beliefs that you have to come away from that race, despite with the fact that he had that wide trip, being pretty impressed by him. With Lone Sailor, he has hit the board at the 1 1/8 distance that we're going to compete in the Haskell a couple times before. But he hasn't quite picked up a win at the distance. I did want to take a look at the Offspring, the Majestic Warrior, and just how they do at the exact 9 furlong distance. And we can set this stat up if you go ahead and select the horse. Then you can modify what you're looking at here. And if you scroll down, I really love this feature because there are many times where when I'm talking about a distance, I can set, in this case, exactly 9 furlongs. In other cases, I might set something from 1 mile and beyond. I want to know which horses are going to excel at 1.5 miles or further. Often when I'm talking about turf races, I'll kind of set those specific features with regard to horses. So I'm looking at the percentage here. Majestic Warrior, it's okay, 12% That's how often he connects at 9 furlongs. But I want to hit this show all button just because I'm curious as to which sire of the horses in this field really excel at this distance. And this is going to be not shocking, but I think worth noting. You can see Curlin, he is the strongest at 20%. Also, Quality Road is pretty strong in here as well, represented by a couple of one of our competitors in this group. He's the 4. And so that is going to be Core Belief, who was the winner of that race. So I'm just going to file that away. Keep it in mind as we move forward. We'll go back to the past performances of the 2-horse Navy Commander. His last couple races are victories, but his most recent race over the course in the Long Branch, I immediately just look at that speed figure that he's pulled up, those Equibase speed figures. I just don't think his numbers are quite there. You can see from his running lines that he has some speed. I think he's going to be involved pace-wise. I'm just not sure he is going to be classy enough to compete with these horses. So we'll jump to the 3, Roaming Union. Kelly Breen is this trainer of this horse. That he's one of the best trainers at Monmouth each and every year, and he makes Monmouth his summer home. I want to see how he's doing lately as well, and I'm going to notice via his stats that he's 25% over the last 30 days. He's doing very well right now. His horses are connecting early and midway into the meet here, and he's also 59% in the money. So these are good numbers that I think for Kelly Breen. He's spotting them well. You have to keep that in mind. Looking at his last few starts, you see the horse has been second. And again, the speed figures just aren't really jumping off the page. I wanted to take a look at the chart from the Pegasus, his last race, because this is one of my favorite features via Stats Race Funds. If you're ever concerned about a chart or considering a chart, you can just highlight over the horse's name, each competitor, and it's going to tell you what those horses have done in their prior starts. Now, a couple of these horses haven't come back to run yet, but this is just one of those things that as you're doing your handicapping is really going to save you some time. So we can close out of that. Again, Kelly Breen's doing well. I'm not sure Roaming Union is quite up to the class of some of his competitors, but again, he has some speed. He'll be involved. So we'll jump to Core Beliefs now. We saw the Ohio Derby. I'm going to start with his lifetime record, though, top right-hand portion of the screen. He's one of the most lightly raced horses in here, but he's also incredibly consistent. He's on the board in all 3 efforts at the distance as well, which is a huge positive as these distances start stretching out once more for these horses. If you go a little further back in his past performances, look at that Santa Anita Derby. That race goes a long way in my mind. He's behind Justify and Bolt Fioro. This was early in his career. Those horses clearly, a couple of the best from the division. But the red arrow, if you look in his Peter Pan effort 2 starts back, that indicates that he had a little bit of trouble. So I do want to take a quick look at that race and just see how significant the trouble was for him in the Peter Pan. This is the Ohio Derby. Let's close out of this one and just jump back to the Peter Pan, which is his effort 2 starts back. I think you'll see here that he does sort of stumble away from there. He doesn't really get his feet underneath him as quickly as he should have, but he does gain momentum away from there pretty quickly after that. He recovers very well from this incident. He was the rail horse there. So again, a little bit of trouble. I'm glad that it was pointed out for me. I'm able to see this. We can go ahead and kind of fast forward to the quarter pole. He goes ahead and strikes the front. I can just let you know. We can verbally pass this info along. He's going to strike the front kind of early in this race, and I think that wasn't really the best tactic for him. I think he got a little lost out there on the front end, and he's going to eventually be overtaken by Blended Citizen. He'll finish second, defeated about a length and a half across the wire here. And tactically, this is not what I think is going to be best for him. But I think post position-wise, as far as the Haskell goes, being drawn to the middle of the field, that's going to help him. Just a couple notes on a few of the other horses. Of course, we have to touch on Good Magic Bravazzo. He's a horse that I have a hard time figuring out when he's going to run well and when he isn't. So he's difficult to predict for me. I'm just not sure that he still has one of those big races in him right now. You see that 6th place effort that he comes off of last time out in the Belmont. He looks like he's tailing off a little bit. Maybe he's fresh for the coach, but he's a horse that he'll beat me if he's going to run a big race coming up on Sunday, because he would surprise me. Good Magic is the next horse, and of course the favorite on the morning line, and the one we really have to give some attention to. I want to start with the mare here, Glinda the Good. I was a big fan of hers. She kind of sticks out to me, and this is something that I do quite often with Stats Race Lens, is go ahead and open up the mare's page, and then I look at her past performances. They're right there for you along the right-hand side of the screen. Look at her PPs, and you'll see that she had a lot of tactical speed. She won quite a few races herself. She kind of can put herself anywhere through the race, and I think that that is the combination that Good Magic gets with his pedigree. Curlin on the top, this mare on the bottom, a lot of speed, a lot of stamina. She is by hard spun. There's a lot of stamina there. So I just have always been a big fan of Good Magic. He was actually my Derby horse when we went into the Kentucky Derby. He's consistent. He's consistently strong in his speed figures. You see the 108 there that he picked up last time out in the Preakness. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of highlights. There's a lot of numbers that are kind of showing themselves to you on this page with Good Magic because he really hasn't done anything wrong. It's also difficult to ignore Chad Brown's stats. Look at Chad. There's green across almost every set of columns for him. There really isn't anything that he does poorly. He is even 23% in stakes races. And I think the only knock on this horse is that he seems to get better with a race under his belt. They've sat back on him for a little bit now since the Preakness. He's had some time, and you can see each and every start he tends to get better. Second off the layoff, third off the layoff, he improves. And I think Chad Brown might have his eye on bringing this horse back in the Travers. And this is obviously a race that you want to win, but they're based at Saratoga, and I think he's looking a little bit further down the line with Good Magic. Golden Brown is the last horse in this field. He'd be another one that would surprise me. He comes in off 2 races on the turf course. Pat McBurney, his trainer, 0% with the move from turf to dirt. So that's kind of difficult for me to ignore. And again, he would be one that, even though he seems pretty sharp right now, he would be surprising to me. So guys, on top, I'm going to put Core Beliefs. I don't have any questions about his form right now. I know he's sharp. I know he can get the distance. And I'm confident that he is going to run a repeat of that last race in the Ohio Derby. I don't think the travel is going to take anything out of him because it hasn't just yet. I'll put Good Magic in second for the Haskell this weekend just because I think he, although maybe the best horse on paper in the race, I think he's going to be a little bit better in his next start. And then Lone Sailor, again, he's right there or thereabouts, but as we saw via the distance and the offspring of Majestic Warrior and how they do, as the distance would progress, I think, again, he gets a piece of it, but not quite there for the victory.
Now, group of 7, and it is the question about the comebacking Good Magic versus some horses that have been kind of plugging away and making forward progress at the middle portion of the year. Let's turn Ellis back with us. And Ellis, how are you approaching this?
Well, I entered this race looking for why not, and I went through every horse as Christina did, and it's so great because Christina is so phenomenal in her examination, and we have an entirely different opinion of the Ohio Derby, which I'll get to in a minute. But under why not, I really think the race boils down to Golden Brown and Good Magic, and of course Golden Brown opens at 15-1, and Good Magic now is of course 6-5 will be prohibitive. And Christina made an interesting point when she said that Pat McBurney is 0 for 19 turf to dirt. Well, I look at it a different way. I think 19 starts isn't really enough to me to care that he's 0 for 19 because he could be 3 of his next starts and then he'll be 3 for 22, which is already up in the 20%, 15%, 20% range. I was more concerned about the horse and some other things. So I'm going to show the video. The first thing I noticed is this race to Kent was a mile and an eighth. It was on the turf. So I asked myself the question, does the horse have dirt form? And the answer is yes. 2 seconds in a win to start his career, one at Monmouth, which is good, then another 4th, and then a win, and then a second on the grass, first turf, and the second turf start, which is a grade 3 worth $200,000. So certainly a decent class-level race. These last 2, 99.97. He's way short as the speed figures, as we said, but the 9 furlongs was interesting, and so I'm going to show the video. And I'm going to imagine that this race was on dirt. And people can make fun of me all they want. And I'll kind of go to about the middle point here where he's sitting, I believe he was number 6. So he's sitting here, and he's still not engaging. And now he's going to take off. And this is a really accelerating move that I'm really thrilled about because there are a few horses here that kind of hang. And he didn't hang at all. He knew exactly what his task was, and he put it down. So that's a good race that he's improving off of on an improving pattern of figures. It's not on par, as I said, with the other horses, but he's on a nice pattern here finally. 83, 93, 92, about the same, and 95. He could jump up here to a 103, 104, which may be good enough to win the race. The questions of the trainer and surface and distance come into play. And one of the interesting ones was I was looking at Awfully Wild, and I do a similar thing Christina does. I just want to remind myself of horses in his pedigree that are similar. So I have this set up already as a default stat for the sire in dirt routes and stakes. Well, the first horse that jumps off the page to me, and I haven't even sorted it by win position as I can. Actually, I shouldn't do that. The first horse jumps off the page of me when it was originally by sort is Bayern. And I know what Bayern did. Of course, he won the Breeders' Cup Classic. And when I sort it by just wins, to put the winners on top to remind myself who they were, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 horses out of 20 that won turf route stakes for Awfully Wild. So Awfully Wild doesn't have a lot of representation as other horses like Quality Road do and Pioneer the Nile in dirt route stakes, but they perform pretty well here, in my opinion. And then the other question is back to the trainer, as said, McBurney. So we know he's a guy that pretty much practices on the circuit himself, and he's got some great numbers overall, last 30, etc. Not too bad in stakes, a couple wins and a positive ROI. But I want to kind of figure out what a trainer's ability is when he has a horse in form, keeping the horse in form. So I'll go to here, as Christina said, I have it already, but I'm going to do it on the fly. It was turf to dirt because I had that set up. I'm just going to go to dirt. So this is going to be, if you'll see the things that don't say all, last 2 years, dirt, winner last out, and route. That's all I care about. How does he hold this? How does he get his routers to keep their form? And again, the statistics take no time at all to calculate, about a minute. And all of a sudden I see, okay, 3 for 14, 11 horses, 8 in the money. That's pretty good. 8 of these 14 runners have hit the board, which 6 were first or second at. It's just 14 when they won their previous race and they're racing in dirt route today. So I think he can hold his form. The question is, can he improve enough? And all I can say is at 15-1, I have no problem taking a shot with him. I have no real knocks on Good Magic. He's a legitimate favorite. The odds are not legitimate, but I'm going to use him in exactas. A little questionable. He ran so well in the Bluegrass, second off the layoff, as Christina pointed out, with a nice stalking trip. Same stalking trip in the Derby, just couldn't pass in the last eighth of a mile where a lot of horses hit the wall anyway. And then in the Preakness, I kind of question those tactics. Now, I'm sure Brown said you've got to take on Justify or else, and Ortiz was following instructions. I think they're going to go back to this kind of a trip here today, particularly because I think Navy Commander, if you look at his running lines, like I said, his last win was wire to wire. His 3 wins have been basically wire to wire. He's going to show some speed, core beliefs, even though he closed here. That just happened to be the way the race played out. Otherwise, he likes to be near the lead, and I think it's going to put Good Magic in a nice third-place trip or fourth early, sort of like Bluegrass. But again, he's not a value at the odds. Now, this is where it's very interesting, and Christina, it's not about, I'm sure you get people talking different opinions than you all the time. So it's just a different way that we saw this race. I'm going to go back and look at the Ohio Derby, and Christina did that earlier, and she talked as it was going, and I'm going to make a couple comments about this race that I noticed. And I'm going to skip around to the turn, and 2 things bothered me here. One, get to the right point of the race, which I should be able to, is right on the turn, probably about the 3/16 pole, Core Beliefs is here, and he gets a smack, and he gets a smack, and he's driving on him. There was a Talamo at the time. And I don't like the fact that the horse didn't do that on his own, that he had to be given a couple of taps to remind him to pass horses. That bothers me, and I'll say exactly why in a minute. And then if you go and look at the Lone Sailor trip, which was a dream trip inside between horses, the Red Sea parted for him. So get the video to come back again, go a little further here. A little further. Should just back up just a couple seconds. There you go. Lone Sailor comes through, pretty much gets the Red Sea parted, gets going, makes the lead. I don't think you can claim he didn't see core beliefs, but he hung on him, and he got past. And my thing is, if you look at that move, as we looked at a minute ago, the move that Golden Brown made, and, of course, the move that Good Magic made in the Bluegrass, if either of these horses make the kind of move on core beliefs and Lone Sailor, they're not going to be able to re-engage and re-break and do anything with them. So this race is fairly interesting for me. I'm going to use Bravazzo in second, but my play is going to be a win bet, maybe a win place on Golden Brown, a fairly hefty exacta boxing Golden Brown and Good Magic, and I'll play some smaller exacta boxes with Golden Brown with core beliefs and Golden Brown with Lone Sailor, and just a little savor of Golden Brown with Bravazzo. So you're both welcome to take shots at me, but it's interesting that we both used this great tool, Race Lens, and saw the race completely differently.
Well, when you have a field like this and you've got a very obvious and a very strong favorite, it absolutely pays to go looking for some alternative narratives, and I don't blame you at all. Good Magic is just very much the horse to beat, and the race flow. If you look at the pace, the pace set up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now. Forgot to do that.
Pull that up.
There you go. Yep, Good Magic sitting in a great trip right off of core beliefs.
Exactly, or and really whoever else wants to be involved. I expect that Angel Arroyo, who won the Long Branch with Navy Commander, you got to think that he's going to be forward. Jimenez is going to want to be forward. So there'll be some speed out in front, and Good Magic can kind of set up shop, and Jose Ortiz can just draft outside. To me, the right price is Lone Sailor. Joe Bravo really suits him, and you'll see Joe save every step of ground, and Lone Sailor's best performances have come under those scenarios. He's going to save ground inside all the way, and then Joe will slingshot for a run down the stretch, and he'll get as far as he can. Is it good enough to win? It hasn't been repeatedly. When you see a horse shy at the finish, it's very frustrating to go back to bet them as a win candidate. But he is the horse that's going to be the decent price. I mean, Bravazzo and Core Beliefs are going to be second and third choice. So if you're looking for a 9-2 to 6-1 horse, for me, Lone Sailor is the one that you can key around. But make no mistake, Good Magic, the horse to beat.
To your point, Steve, I wanted to say, and Christina, I'd love to hear your opinion. But my knock on Lone Sailor was the fact that he made the lead and hung. But that was inside, and maybe he did or didn't see core beliefs. But Christina, don't you sometimes feel that horses on the outside can find that little bit of extra when they engage as opposed to inside?
I think that's true, yeah. And I think anytime they, sense any kind of competition coming up to their outside again, that's when they will sort of re-rally. I liked visually what you're saying, Steve, from Lone Sailor. I think he looked like he was just doing it a little bit more easily and a little bit more under his own power. It's just the added distance worries me with him coming up on Sunday. I don't think that extra 16th of a mile is going to help him, whereas with Core Beliefs, I think he is going to keep kind of coming at you. And I think you're right, Ellis, talking about how he did need, a few reminders to go buy those horses at the quarter pole. I can tell you he's always been sort of a lazy horse for Pete Urton, and he has said that since the beginning. And I think that's part of the reason why he's one of those horses that was a late developer. He wasn't ever going to be gunning away from the gate early on and successful, around one turn. It's as the distances started to progress that he started to really find himself. And I think as they keep getting further, it's going to continue to help him.
Well, the Haskell, always a wonderful day. For those of you that have never had a chance to go to Jersey, to go down to Oceanport, it was the first for me. It was the first racetrack that I was able to attend on a really regular basis. I lived on the shore and just fell in love with it. It's a little jewel, and now with the sports betting off and running and exceeding expectations, It feels like the future is stabilized and assured for Monmouth. It's a must-see if you've never been. Put it on your list. The Matchmaker goes as the 9th race, the Grade 3. These are fillies and mares. They're going to go a mile in the 8th. The Matchmaker's got a wonderful history, too. It's a race that used to literally put together winners of races and provide stallion seasons. Things have changed. Now WinStar offers a stallion season to the connections of the winner. The Matchmaker, a very cool concept. It's been around a long time. And this is a nice group, and there may be an emerging filly in here. We'll see how you guys drew it up, and we'll start with Christina at the Matchmaker.
Christina there?
Christina? There we go. Did we lose her?
Well, I'm here, guys. There we go. Here I am. So anytime you start talking about the turf route graded stakes races, it seems to be that you have to focus in on Chad Brown, right? So let's start with him. He has the 2 Dream a While, who is the 2-to-1 morning line choice. He also has Alicia's World in here, but we'll start with Dream a While, who comes off a victory last time out, as you can see, and that was in the Eatontown Stakes. And one of the first things I see is that trouble indicator over to the right. She stumbled at the start. So I do want to take a look at this race and just see how significant that trouble was for her. And it's also a common race that many of them come out of, as it is sort of the prep for this race. So we'll keep an eye. She's the number 2 horse here, and she is going to stumble a little bit. I don't think it was one of those significant bobbles that really, could have made this a heroic victory for her, but she gets away slightly slowly, and she's just shuffled back a little bit away from there. You can go ahead and kind of fast forward to the backstretch because they are going to absolutely walk the dog out here. 25 for the quarter, 49-3. Irad Ortiz senses that and goes ahead and makes a bit of an early move with her just to kind of put her in contention. And I think that was the right move for the daughter of Warfront, because he did need to put her in a spot where she could be competitive, being that it was such a slow pace. Now, her stablemate, Alicia's World, she's to the outside, kind of in that turquoise. She is coming from off the pace and was going to be compromised by the slow pace, trying to run her down. So in the meantime, this is a good effort from Dream a While. She's going to go ahead and kick clear. She's going to hold off the special event and Alicia's World. She'll be 3/4 of a length across the wire as your winner. And in her last several starts here since coming to North America, she has not done anything wrong. A couple of wins, a 3rd place finish back at Churchill in the Distaff Turf Mile, a 2nd place effort in the Suwannee River. All of these are positive notes, and I think she is in sharp form right now. But because of that pace scenario, I was a little bit more intrigued by Alicia's World. So let's go to her. She's the 7 in the Matchmaker coming up on Sunday. She, again, compromised by the slow pace last out. And then I think the soft turf at Pimlico 2 races back in the Galleret just didn't really help her either. I wanted to kind of touch in on the fact that a couple starts back in that race, she was beaten by Ultra Brat. And that was a name that kind of jumped to the forefront of my mind because she ran so well just recently at Saratoga. So let's go ahead and open the chart for the Galleret from a couple starts back. And you can see there is Ultra Brat. She finished 2nd in her next start. Well, I want to know a little more. Let's click that. Let's open her past performances. She finished 2nd to Sister Charlie in the Grade 1 Diana on July the 21st. So this goes a long way for me in terms of the form that Alicia's World has been keeping. She was 4th that day. Again, I don't think she liked the pace scenario. But if you look 3 starts back in the Suwannee River, where she gets kind of a firmer turf course and little pace to run at, that's when she comes from off the pace with that big victory, even though it was quite a ways back on February the 10th. So I know that she has the ability. I think she just needs a few things to go her way for her to be able to win. She also runs 3rd off the layoff coming up on Sunday. And I want to quickly check that stat with regard to Chad Brown. It's actually going to be the one that's right there if you select his name. And really no surprise here as the numbers do come up. He is at 24%. 3rd off the layoff. So I'm liking her chances, Alicia's World, just more and more as we go through her PPs here. And I think she has the ability to maybe turn the tables on Dream a While coming up this weekend, just because she will get a little bit more pace to run at with the fuller field.
Like I said, I wanted to do the stat on the fly. So what was the stat you had for Chad Brown?
Chad Brown, third off the layoff. Just very, very simple. You can see how he does, in that circumstance.
It wasn't specific to distance or surface, just all starters, third off the layup. Just all
starters, yeah, when he comes in, third off the layup. And really, I think you can kind of look through.
Second. Second, I think.
Include all starters. Do we have a third off the layup? When I had it up originally, it was just
You're right.
There we go.
It's there.
And include all starters.
Show everybody how we can do it on the fly, and here I am forgetting that we had that. There we go.
Well, and I think, it's hard to find a bad statistic for Chad Brown. He just does everything so well. So there it is. So again, 23% with horses third off the layup. I think she is one that is going to continue to get better. Any kind of speed figures that you kind of follow with Alicia's World, you can see that they are improving. The only other horse I wanted to point out was the four horse in this group, and that's Lift Up for Michael Dickinson. She's really intriguing to me. Her turf record, you just can't ignore it. She's 5 for 5 on the turf course. It took them a little bit to put her on the grass, but she has just been transformed since switching surfaces. Again, the trouble indicator kind of pops up in her last race, so you can see it says lacked room. So I do want to look at that race, and we can just pick it up, but sort of as they turn for home here. So we'll open the replay. We can fast forward it until they turn for home, and she is going to be the 3 in this group, and she is going to show a pretty strong turn of foot here, and this is what I like to see. It took her a while to get going. She's in the Augustin Stable Stilts, but nowhere to go, bottled up. Finally, she sees daylight, and then there she goes, just rockets on home. This is right here over this turf course here at Monmouth in the Miss Liberty. She has traveled around. She doesn't need to take her turf course with her. So I like this filly more and more the more I see of her. And when a horse is undefeated, on a particular surface, you cannot ignore that by any means. I don't think the added distance is going to be a problem for her. There's just a lot of positives with regard to Lift Up, and she's 6-1 on the morning line. And then the last one, just to kind of touch on the 8 special events. I think her last 3 turf efforts, as you'll see, they're all very good. A couple of second place finishes, a victory back in May for her, but she seems to do her best running. If you just look at where she wins, she is on or near the lead in those 3 races. Gate to wire win there. A couple starts back when she wins back in January. Again, it's gate to wire for her. Back in December, gate to wire. I think from the outside post, they're going to probably have to use her to get the position that she wants, and I don't think that's going to help her coming up on Sunday. So for me, it's Lift Up. I'm going to take the improving kind of younger horse, the 4. I love her turf record. I love her versatility. She looks like a filly that can stalk the pace if she needs to. She can come from off the pace. I know she has the turn of foot that you saw out of the Miss Liberty. And of Chad Brown's horses, I think Alicia's World can turn the tables on Dream a While. So I would take the 7 in second, Alicia's World, and then I put Chad's other filly, Dream a While, in third here in the Matchmaker.
Ellis.
Well, I think we're in trouble, Christina, because we're on the same horse. You talked about a lot of things. You talked about the trouble, and I kind of started that stretch run a little late, but she's just waiting. Pino pulls her out of a little hole. As soon as he gets her to level off, she explodes. It's a career best. It's back to the turf. I love the pattern here because she ran okay last year as a 3-year-old, comes back, scratches her out of a couple races, and then won. And we all know how good Michael Dickinson is. Couple things that are interesting here. First of all, we talk about the pace. There's going to be more pace than there was, as you mentioned in the Eatontown. I'm going to go to the pace projector to just get a feeling for how the race might play. And it's going to show us that Alicia's World was probably going to be closer, a decent pace scenario, Party Boat, and the 2 Dream a While we talked about. Dream a While not as much because she's more of a sustained runner. And Viva Vegas on the rail, who I think is actually going to be the pace setter. I'm not sure the projector's properly taking into account the fact that what do you do with a horse on the rail, you're going to go. And that's what Carmouche is going to go with Viva Vegas. And then when I sort on late pace, Lift Up just jumps off the page. It's the best closer in the field. But what I really like about Lift Up, besides the fact that the light bulb has just gone on recently and she won in spite of trouble, and that 110 Equibase speed figure is the best last race figure. Actually, it's the best figure except for 2 of Dream a While's of any horse in the race, and it's bound to be improved upon third off the layoff. She beat Viva Vegas. She beat Party Boat, always the bold, the horses that are similar in the same race. She, and by the way, Party Boat was 8-5 that day, and she was 3-1. So she's 6-1. I'm not sure that's going to hold up. We'll see. Mario Pino rode her just those 2 races and rode her just fantastically well. And then 2 things. First of all, even though she's a turf winner, I did want to check the dam. And when I looked at the dam's progeny on turf, you find a fantastic record of 17 for 63. And not just this one winner, because when you sort on wins, you'll see Lift Up, Appealing Cat, Cat's Holiday, Cat Park, Dynamic Holiday. 5 of her 7 foals are turf route winners. So this dam produces some nice horses. And, of course, she's a Augustin Stable, a Strawbridge homebred. Another thing is, of course, Dickinson just kind of, I'm trying to validate, not to make the case any stronger, because I already like the filly, but you want to, again, ask the same question about what happens when a trainer, how does a trainer keep a good horse in form? And Michael Dickinson, past 2 years, turf routes, winner last out. Well, he's got 4 nice winners and 4 seconds. So 8, 4, 15, first or second. And again, a number of different horses here besides Lift Up. So definitely a top pick. I kind of disagree a little bit with Christina, respectfully, on the 8 horse. I think talk about that race. That was that race that was very slow early. Another one, that was very slow early. That was the Dream a While race that went really slow, 25:49. I have it set for pace figures. It just tells you how slow this is, because when you see a normal pace race, you see 90 and 100, and that was 72. In spite of that, beaten 3/4 of a length and improving pattern, the same pattern as Lift Up, third off the layoff. Shug McGahee shipping down, getting Trevor McCarthy to ride back after getting familiar with her. He's going to time it a lot better. She's 6-1. And then the 2 Dream a While, the favorite. So for me, I'm looking to make a couple of win bets here, probably on Lift Up and special events. If I can get 3-1 on either of them, because at 6-1, I'll just bet on both and let one of them lose, but still make a nice profit. And the exacta box is pretty simple. It's going to be Dream a While plus Lift Up and special event.
The only thing I'll add to the conversation, special event, I like very much. And this is the first time you'll note that the 4-year-old filly is able to make 3 consecutive starts. It's obvious with all the interruption lines that Shug has had trouble keeping her sound. It feels like maybe now as a 4-year-old, she's into a nice beat and rhythm. I don't think she'll have a problem from out there. McCarthy has horses inside of him that basically aren't going to be part of the early pace. Broken Bridle might be the first horse that he comes across. I think he can do what he wants. He can set up shop, and if he wants to go on, if somebody from down inside, including Viva Vegas, wants to go, so be it. I think she is really the right horse at the right price. The obvious players, you guys absolutely utilized all the tools to zero in on the right players. Let's stick with the fillies and mares and talk about the Molly Pitcher. And the Molly Pitcher's got a terrific history. A lot of top filly and mares have participated and won this. Christina, start us off. Well, I think we're Christina. You muted.
Christina.
Maybe? I think she might.
Here we are, guys.
There we go.
I'm with you.
That's darn.
I wanted to start actually with. I know I left it on again. I wanted to start with Valedictorian, who you were just looking at there. She's a little bit of a puzzle to me because Kelly Breen, as I mentioned, one of the best trainers there at Monmouth. But I'm looking at her training pattern, and if you go down to her works at the bottom, June 20th, that she has that nice bullet work. That's the most recent work that you see for her. Then she didn't run until the 4th of July. Now, it was a good effort. She won the Jersey Girl, but to have such a long time between that last work and her performance in the afternoon was a little curious for me. Maybe it was the work that they didn't catch, perhaps. There could have been, a little bit more there, but then she's coming back on quick rest, and she hasn't worked again since then. So I'm just wondering if she is, 100% and can come back and fire a big race. She's also switching from the turf to the dirt. So she's a little bit of a puzzle. I'm not sure that she is really up to par with some of the others, so I'll kind of move on from her. Disco Rose, the 2. She's an honest type, but again, I'm looking at these Equibase speed figures, and nothing really is jumping off the page to me. She's kind of getting a piece of it. She's running some even races against Allowance Company, and I think this step up in class might be a little tough for her. Divine Miss Gray is the first one that I was really intrigued by, the 3. There are a lot of positives in her corner. She comes off a win over the track and at the distance. So you can see that in the Ladies' Secret last out at the mile and the 16th right here. And that was a class drop for her, I think, prior when you compare it to her last couple races in New York. She's in the Bed of Roses around one turn, the Distaff Handicap around one turn as well. I think she was sort of struggling to keep up with some of those real sharp horses in New York around one turn, but the move back here to Monmouth was very welcoming for her. And I also wanted to look at Danny Gargan. He's only sent 3 horses here to Monmouth over the last 90 days. And if we just kind of modify it to see how he's been over this specific track, so we'll use today's track. We'll go over the last 3 months because they haven't been running too long there at Monmouth, and we'll include all of the starters. And with those 3 horses that he sent, 2 of them have won, and then the other horse is going to be third, as you'll see. This will kind of process and filter for you really quickly. He's spotting the horses that he sends here to Monmouth very well. He's also doing well at Saratoga right now. I think he picked up a win, was it today or yesterday? So Danny Gargan is putting the horses where they belong. This particular filly comes in sharp form, so I really, really like her moving towards the race this weekend. Viva Forever is the 4 horse. A quick look at her. She earned her highest ever speed figure in that last race. So you can see the 104 there that's kind of highlighted in green. It was a big 7-length victory for her at Parks, and it was also the first time she ran for a new trainer. So I'll kind of keep that in mind, because sometimes if a trainer finds, something new or they change some equipment, you never know. He really seemed to get the best out of her. So I'm going to give Viva Forever a little bit of a look. I want to jump to the 6th in here, Unchained Melody. She's confusing as well. I think she's the class of the field in a lot of ways. If you look back into her form kind of through her earlier seasons back at 3 years old, I mean, she's a grade 2 winner out of the Mother Goose. That really does stand out on the page, but everything that follows is a little bit disappointing. She was banned off in the Alabama. That's where you see the running line just kind of stop on the page right there. And then she's been last and nearly last in her following 2 races. Brian Lynch is her trainer. He's going to add blinkers and give her, hopefully her best chance to get a little confidence going here as he brings her in against some softer company. I wanted to look at the pace projector for her, though, in regards to this race, because I think if he's putting the blinkers on, he's trying to get her sharp again, and he wants to see if she can kind of gain a little confidence out on the front end and be effective as she was in the past. So she's the 6th in here, and you can see into that first turn, she's kind of mid-pack, and it looks like who we talked about earlier, Divine Miss Gray, is a little bit quicker. So I'm not sure that Unchained Melody is going to be able to establish that spot that she wants, even with the added equipment and the class drop and the fact that her form is a little bit in question. I think she might take some money, but I'm going to go ahead and play against her coming up on Sunday. And then Dream Call, the 7, the next one in line for Steve Asmussen. She's a horse that I like in this race as well. 3 consecutive victories for her from off the pace. This will be her first effort at Monmouth, but so far she's traveled very well for him. She hasn't had any kind of trouble. And I want to take a look at the stats with regard to Steve Asmussen specifically here at Monmouth. I want to see how he does when he's shipping horses in to this track, because he spends a lot of time obviously up at Saratoga this time of year, and he's going to be selective with the horses that he goes ahead and sends here to Monmouth. So we'll take a look. All starters, just keep it very wide ranging. We'll go over the past 5 years, you can say, just to get kind of a bigger sampling in terms of the number of horses. We'll keep all of that the same, including all starters.
And you
And
want
if we go
domestic
ahead,
shippers. Domestic shippers is the
I think
category.
I think I included. Yeah, I think I might have just done it with all starters. Anything that he sent to Monmouth, because I don't think he keeps horses based there at all, right?
Right. So this would be horses.
Yeah.
The domestic shippers means their last race was elsewhere. Let me do that one just to
somewhere else. Yeah.
How that works, and then we can come back to the one that you have, which is just all stars at Monmouth. Because
and that might be even stronger. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
Yep. So
yeah,
6 wins for him in his last 22 starts. So he's very strong. He's 27% bringing horses here to Monmouth. I like her a lot. I'm going to put Divine Miss Gray on top, but ultimately I think she's fast. I like her record here. I like what Danny Gargan is doing as of late. I like her recent works as well. She comes in off a bullet at Belmont. So she'll be my top selection. I'll put Dream Call, the 7 horse in behind her, in second. For Asmussen, she's sharp as well. And I think she can sit a nice trip from maybe mid-pack or further off the pace. And then Viva Forever, I give her a chance, the 4 horse for the new trainer, Louis Linder Jr., who I'm not as familiar with. But again, he seemed to really get the best out of her in that last race at Parks. So I think she's a candidate to maybe continue that upward trajectory, even though she is taking on much, much tougher competition.
Ellis.
Well, I'm going to go back to the pace projector. Christina already kind of started it here. And the pace projector it can be in conflict. It's not a bad thing because this grid tells you horses' running styles, their late pace, and then there's a warning about that when you've got 4 or 5 or more. And then this is a summary of their projected speed figures. So projected speed figures show that Divine Miss Gray could be on a lone lead. However, the running style shows that there's 5 horses that might want the lead early or early presser. So as anybody that looks at pace understands, 1 or 2 things can happen here. Divine Miss Gray gets out on their own, and the horses that normally want to have the lead that don't get that just take their toys and go home, and they end up getting beaten by pressing early. The other thing that could happen is another horse or 2 will press Divine Miss Gray and cause a really fast pace, and the dead closers will do even better. I'm kind of envisioning the last scenario, and I'll tell you because even though when you look at Divine Miss Gray's races here, when she's on the lead, she wires the fields. It's coming up now. Here it is. So it wires the fields here at a mile and 16th. Forget these are all one-turn races. That really was her only actual 2-turn race, except for way back here at Aqueduct on turf earlier in her career. So she wants to have the lead. She runs fairly fast, 100, 111 early figures. I think the problem is going to be in that Disco Rose will lay close to her. I think Valedictorian will lay close to her, after at least pressing her. I think the 5 horse who has very little chance in the race, Swan's Kingdom, could lay close because this is a sprint. This is a sprint. Here, a route she pressed. She didn't last time out, but they're going to have to try different tactics. And I think the 6 also, Unchained Melody, Jose Ortiz is known for taking advantage of the absence of speed, if there isn't any, but the 2 best times that she ran well and won, even though they were 1-turn mile 16th at Belmont, she was first or second early, and last time out when she decided to rate, even though she was overmatched, she didn't do well. I think that all sets up really, really well for the closers. And Christina mentioned one of the horses, Viva Forever. I love this move from 3-2 back to a length and a half to 7. I like the fact that it was on the trainer change, so Linder figured her out. Castro rode her for the first time, riding her back. That 104 figure, by the way, now when you start looking at the favorites, you look at Divine Miss Gray, and you say, okay, what does it take to win this race? Well, Divine Miss Gray, 114, 103, 1/3, 101, 111, and then you go to Viva Forever, and yes, she's not that fast according to the figure, but she can be because she's a lightly raced horse who's moving up, not 85, 96, 104. 8 more points here if she jumps up again, and she certainly doesn't know how to lose right now. She goes to 112. So she's it. The other one is the 8 Burned, and I got a request before it started to show something, which I'm going to second. But Burned is 2 for 2 at Monmouth. That was in the slot, but it was a great rallying race from 7th, 6 back. The other race at Monmouth is back here. Now, what I'm going to do is show people we have, of course, a number of pre-populated past performances, and one of them under we call the situational templates happens to be, which is today's track and surface. So it's going to be at the track and whether it's on dirt and turf. And you can decide what you want to do with these races. I have it so all the other ones are turned off. So that's an example of just showing Burns Monmouth dirt routes. Now, if I want to go into customized PPs really quick, I'll find that today's track and surface template. I can edit it, and I can determine what I want to do. If I don't want to only show those races, I want to go to gray filtered text, and I can change it to today's tracks, make a little note, name it a little bit different. And I already have one like it, so I'll save it. Save it. It's going to apply it immediately, and it's going to come back to Burns and apply the template. And now you'll see in a second when it gets back to her that all the races that aren't all the races that aren't those Monmouth dirt routes are still there. They're just light gray, and now it really highlights the fact that she's 2 for 2 on the dirt at Monmouth, and that 100 speed figure effort from Serena Song is pretty good. And then the 3, I will still not totally toss out Divine Miss Gray. I'm going to use her in exactas. I left this formatting on for now, but that was a great race. So my picks in this race are going to be Viva Forever, Burns, and the favorite Divine Miss Gray.
Very nice, and I like Burns too. I Burns bravo, and I think the pace absolutely gets hot. So can't argue.
Excellent.
Let's talk about the Wolf Power and the Wolf Hill, excuse me. And actually, today it was when I had Frank Miramani on. Frank talked about Wolf Hill, which was a property across the entrance from Monmouth for many years, and there was a mansion, and people would come, horsemen would come in, and they could stay at Wolf Hill. That's the origin. It was Rick Hammerly actually told that story today. Rick, one of his first jobs in racing office was at Monmouth, and of course his friend and classmate at University of Arizona, Mike Dempsey, stayed there 30 years. The Wolf Hill is the next leg in the match series as well. The 4th of the 5 match series races. They'll go to Laurel for the Dash after this. And this has got all the usual suspects when it comes to Mid-Atlantic turf sprinting. And Christina, you were probably looking at some horses that you've seen over the course of time. This is a deep, compelling field.
It really is. And, if it isn't the favorite, it could be anybody in here. I think that's what's the most intriguing about this race. I want to start with the true odds and with the pace projector just to take a look at it and see. I want to know who's going to be involved early. Speed is king in these 5.5 furlong turf sprints. And I love the horses that come out of the 5.5, 5 furlong turf races at Monmouth. I find that they ship anywhere else and they can be really competitive. I think these races come up tough year in, year out. So you'll see the 11, that's the Infamous. He's the favorite. He does seem to be the quickest early on. But I'm also curious on the left-hand side of the screen here, I want to know who has the best late pace. Who is going to be closing quickest of all? And it's Proforma, the 3. Simon Bar Sinister is fast. At Snow Day, the 6. So I'm just going to file that away kind of in my mind as I go through this race. So let's go back to the PPs. And I do want to start with the 11, with the Infamous, the favorite. He has a near perfect record apart from his most recent race. And I want to wonder and think what went wrong for him there. And you'll see once we get to him that the trouble indicator for Infamous, let's go to the 11 if we can get that popped up.
Sorry, just being a little finicky.
We'll head to him.
There we go.
That's all right. Okay, so his last race along the right-hand side of the screen there, it does give you the little trouble indicator out of the Highlanders. So, they tried him in a grade 1 up at Woodbine. Let's take a look at the replay there and just, we can watch it from the quarter pole home to kind of see where he had this trouble and if it was, significant enough to warrant the 6th place effort, because prior to that, he was undefeated. He was 4 for 4 going into this race here. So Joel Rosario will be aboard. He makes the trip. to Woodbine to ride him. He's going to come from off the pace, which is kind of the normal for him. He usually comes from about mid-pack. Yes, we can sort of back it up. He's the 2, and at this point, things are going pretty well for him. He's saving ground. He's along the inside. That is what you want to see. He's had that good kind of stalking tactical trip, but he's just going to be completely stopped cold along the inside here. Rosario in those gold kind of silks. He's looking for a place to go. Doesn't know if he's going to be able to split horses. He decides to dive to the rail. That gets way too tight on him. He has to completely stand up in the stirrups there and really take a hold. And at that point, the race is over. I mean, the winner has kind of set sail and gone clear. So you can't hold anything against Imprimis for what you see with regard to that last race. But what I was curious about, just because he's a horse that, I think I've seen him run, but I really want to see what he can do when he is on his best game. So I want to look at one more replay with him, and let's go 3 races back and look at his effort at Gulfstream. His last race at Pimlico, which was 2 back, was over a soft turf. I want to see what he can do over a fast turf course, because I think that is what he is going to get coming up this weekend. So again, we can kind of just jump ahead to the quarter pole. I want to see what he can do when they really turn him loose and when he goes ahead and shows that turn of foot. Irad Ortiz will be aboard on this occasion, and look at him. He's just going to power home. He's going to come around. We'll back it up one more time there. There you go. So he's the 8 horse just to the outside, circling around the 7, who is the pace setter on this occasion. And as soon as they do kind of let him go, he really does have that turf sprinting, strong turn of foot that you like to see. Even though he presses the pace, he's able to kind of sustain the fast fractions. He still has a good late kick, and he's so relaxed out there too. You can see the real loose kind of right rein from the rider there. Jose Ortiz is going to be aboard this weekend. I'm sure he's going to do a fine job with finding that good trip. So if he's on his A game, he is going to be very, very tough to beat. Obviously, he needs a clear trip, and this is a drop in class for him out of that grade 1 up at Woodbine in the Highlander last out. Just his inside is the 10. We could just kind of take a quick look at him, because I think his record at the distance stands out. I always look for that when we're in these, 5 furlong races, 5.5 furlong races. He's 4 for 6 at the distance. He has a strong turf record as well, with 7 wins and 22 starts. So I think he's definitely a player, but he will need to possibly improve a little bit if he is going to get a win. I want to see the 8 horse as well a little bit. Oak Bluff, the 2 starts back, pool winner, was defeated by Oak Bluff, and that's in the Pennsylvania Governor's Cup. He's another one that's a specialist at the distance and over the course. He's a 5-time winner in 13 starts at the distance. He's a 12-time winner in 31 starts over the turf course. And his most recent defeats have come over a good course last time, which you can see that Parks Dash, a good listed turf course there, and then a soft turf course 3 races back. So I think with his tactical style, he's a player. And again, he's another one that's going to get kind of the course that he wants coming up this weekend. The 4 horse Simon Bar Sinister, there's some good stats on him. He's intriguing just because he came off a 9-month layoff last time out with a victory in that turf sprint at Belmont. So Joe Bravo was aboard that day, as you can see. And his trainer, John Mazza, if you look at the stat, it's very light in terms of numbers. It's between horses that are coming back from 2 to 6 months. He's only had a couple horses do it, but one of them did win. So, it's hard to kind of take a lot from there. But he has been successful in this circumstance. And if we pull up his stat for turf sprinters just in general, that'll help a little bit more. He is 25% with horses that are turf sprinting. We can include all starters. Again, just kind of keep it kind of wide-ranging with regard to John Mazza. So I think this horse is one that could be kind of sitting on a good race there. 4 wins from 14 starts.
Christina.
Very big.
ROI.
And you get value on a barn like this. Horses or barns that keep kind of smaller numbers. You don't have everybody kind of jumping on board with these barns that have lighter numbers. And he's having a good year. He's only had 24 starters, but 7 of them have made it to the winner's circle. So there's a lot of things to like, I think, about the 4 Simon Bar Sinister. And then the only other horse I wanted to kind of circle back to, that was the 3 Pro Forma, just because he is going to be closing. He's only had 1 chance to turf sprint, but I thought he finished a pretty respectable 3rd on that occasion. He is a son of Munnings, And if you go to the sire stats for Munnings, that you'll see down kind of below his running lines there, that he's 14% with turf sprinters over the last 5 years. I like that. I like this pedigree over this horse. You want to jump back to him there? Yeah, he's the 3.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of looking just right underneath.
Well, mine's going to be a little different. Everybody has like little tweaks they make. So mine was all stakes, but I can back into take the stakes out as soon as I get back to him here. That's what I was going to do. And then I lost that. So let me go back to him. Pro Forma, Munnings, and mine was stakes. So I'm going to take out stakes and we'll just look at Turf Spritz, which is really easy and it happens pretty darn quick. So 1 second, all starters. And this is on the fly. Folks that don't know, if this stat is one you think you're going to use often, you just name it and you can save it and have it from your drop down. Otherwise, you could do it on the fly like this, and there it is, Munnings in Turf Spritz.
Yeah, so he does just fine. So he's a horse that I think is going to be closing. I'm not sure if he's going to be good enough to get the win, but I do like him for a piece of it. And again, as I mentioned, if it's not the favorite, it really is anybody. So Infamous, if you had to find a top selection, it really is hard to look away from the 11. But I'm going to be playing Simon Bar Sinister, the 4. There's a lot of reasons to like him. I think you will get a very good price on him. He's a horse that I would play across the board. He's a horse I would use in any kind of exactas or trifectas, superfectas, and then maybe also the 8, Oak Bluffs. He's one that I think based on his record, his distance record, his record over the turf course, you can't really ignore a horse that just comes in and performs just about each and every time that they put the saddle on and that he catches a turf course that he likes. So I love this race. I think it's one of the better races on the entire program. And, maybe we're just going to be fans and sit back and watch a short price winner in Infamous. But if not, it really is a race that could separate any kind of tickets or sequences that you might be playing on Sunday.
Ellis, some thoughts?
Well, I'm almost on the same page as Christina, and mine's just pace here. And I kind of make this a pick'em race, but I eliminated it down to 4 races. I think that 4 horses. There's a boatload of speed. The 12 on the outside, the 1 on the inside, which I'll show in a minute. The 7 Bold Thunder probably. And I'm with Christina. I loved Infamous. And actually I don't know for sure. I'm assuming Robert Geller, he calls him In For Me, by the way, but just so you know. So we'll have to see how Frank calls him tomorrow. But I loved the horse in that race, and I was just pulling what little hair I have out, watching Rosario go inside and get stuck and lose any chance. It's just a choice that jockeys make. So I'm certainly going to use him. But in terms of this pace and this meltdown, pretty much the same horse that Christina was talking about. Pro Forma, I can't resist this horse at 12-1 on the morning line. Especially when the thing I noticed here was that Joe Bravo had ridden Simon Bar Sinister, and certainly no knock on Alvin Jimenez, who's a very good jockey. But I'm going to go back to Simon Bar Sinister here. Simon Bar Sinister, Bravo rode him to a win. And in this case, even though Pro Forma did not win, hasn't won since the Jersey Shore on dirt, and only has 1 turf race, Bravo's going to take the call. Now, Bravo rides a very high percentage of winners for Mike Stidham. So it could be that, but it could be he thinks he's got the best horse. And so you got 12-1 here. I'm using him. I'm going to use the 4 Simon Bar Sinister again because he's going to be in a great spot, 5th or 6th, as 3 or 4 or 5 horses go out and just really go mano a mano on the lead. I'm going to use the 6 Snow Day, who Christina didn't talk about. He's 10-1. This is a horse that's been all around the country for years, and he's got a really good record, more seconds than first, but $400,000 and second last time out at Belmont on the grass by going to the lead, but I don't think that's his best running style. I think the change to Gallardo was really going to help him here, and he's got these 3 nice wins in turf sprints, 5, 5.5, 6 is right up his alley. He's 10-1, and then the outside the 11, Infamous, certainly any of these races do it. Just talk about the speed again. You've got this speed horse on the outside for Paco Lopez and Jason. Tried to get the lead last time out, couldn't do it, but otherwise this horse has to be first or second early, and so does the rail Abiding Star. He has to be first. It's just in his makeup. And you put them together with other horses, like I said, like Bold Thunder, who went to the lead in 4 straight races before his last start at the start you got a barn burner on the early lead. So for me, it's going to be in no particular order, just an exacta box using pro forma, Simon Bar Sinister, Snow Day, and Imprimis, 3, 4, 6, and 11 to wrap up our picks.
Well, it's a lot of fun. Obviously, Orsino and Imprimis is way the horse to beat. Coming off the Grade 1 and back to maybe a distance that is a little bit more favorable for him as opposed to the Highlander trip, and he will take some beating in here. I like Snow Day a little bit too, Ellis. Second off the layoff, you go back to that performance last year, and he is an older horse, and you have to ask yourself, is he really the same now at 8? But he also is a horse that much prefers the sharp 5.5 trip to the longer 6 and 7 sprint distances. I'm a sucker for Cape de Massey. Dubini has got to be on my ticket. Dubini also happens to be perfect at Monmouth, which doesn't hurt. So it's a wonderful, just a absolutely dynamite set of horses going the 5.5 in the Wolf Hill, and a absolutely tremendous card Sunday at Monmouth Park. We certainly aren't going to let Christina go without maybe getting a little insight. Christina, if you don't mind, if I ask you about those maidens that are running at Del Mar tomorrow and Sunday under Dan Blacker's name.
You're going to catch me on the spot because I haven't looked at the PPs yet for his first-time starters coming up this weekend. He was telling me that he was entering a few, so I don't know which ones of them even got in. I'm going day by day here. So who are we talking about?
Well, Social Etiquette goes tomorrow in the second, and then on Sunday in that really good group, the fourth race, The Lady Is Enough and Friar's Walk. Friar's Walk is AE, but The Lady Is Enough will run and has got Brice Blanc.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he's really looking. Yeah.
Christina, before our next webinar, you have to give me a call, and I'll tell you how to set up an alert to tell you anytime one of your husband's horses is running in Racelands.
I know, right? I'm just trying to survive. We've got 3 kids under 4 years old, and that and this is a lot to keep track of. He's on his own at the barn. But he is looking forward to running The Lady Is Enough. I'll tell you that, because he was really concerned entering 2 horses in that race. He thought, I'm not sure which of them is going to get in. And usually as it goes, that you don't end up getting the one in that you want. And in this case, it did fall the right way. So he is very much looking forward to what she can do of the 3 of them that run. And then he's got, I'm trying to remember, Social Etiquette is the Smiling Tiger filly. Is that right? Are you looking at the PPs in front of you there, Steve, by chance? She's the one sitting on grass.
But I think it
she
is.
And so that is actually, so that's something that came via Stats Racelands. That's interesting, because it was an angle that I pulled about a week ago. I think it was maybe Thursday or Friday.
What race is that?
Second race tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay. I can do that while we're talking.
Yeah, it's an angle that I pulled up just a couple of days ago, which was with regard to the Smiling Tiger offspring and what they are doing on the turf course. You wouldn't have thought that they would go ahead and perform over this surface, but they really are. There's only been a handful of them, and they're running well. So you can see from this filly, she just didn't run a step in her debut. She was 6th, beaten 25 lengths, and Dan was a little puzzled by that, because she has always trained well in the mornings, and she's one that he loved when he picked her out at the sale. There were actually several people trying to buy her, and he ended up kind of bringing them all together, including himself, so that everybody could get a piece of this filly. She schooled yesterday. I was watching her school, and she's absolutely gorgeous. So I went home kind of talking about this angle that I had pulled up via Stats with the Smiling Tigers on turf, and he said, you know what, I've got that filly. I can't drop her in for a claim. I know she's better than what she showed. Let's try her on the grass. So this is the Stats Racelands now being used as a training angle in the Blacker household, and we'll
There you
see
go.
if it kind of comes together for her. Hopefully it does. Fingers crossed.
Very good. Four winners and 6 in the money from just 14 starts on 10 horses.
Including the stake win last week. In the that was at the Osanitas, I think.
That's right.
Yes.
Is that the Helen's Tiger? Maybe is that her?
We won't. A double touch. It was the Wicker, it wasn't the Osanitas. It was the Wicker.
Oh, yeah,
right.
You're double touch. Thank goodness that was. We had to sweat that one out with the inquiry, but what a ride from Gary.
Yes,
He cut every corner out there.
Maybe one corner too many, but by now the check has been cashed.
It's true. I will say I could have seen it go both ways. I really did. I was trying to be as objective as I could as I watched it down there, but I thought because it happened sort of so late in the race and Gary was doing everything to correct him that he could, I thought we had a chance to hold on to it.
Well, we are absolutely going to hold on to Christina Blacker as part of the Stats Race Lens get-togethers, and we're going to be back together in just a few weeks, actually. We come back August 16th for more Del Mar. The Pacific Classic card will be on the agenda there, and we'll probably slip in some Saratoga action. That should be Alabama weekend, and you should be using Stats Race Lens and taking advantage of the summer offers. 50% off the quarterly subscriptions. Save yourself $149. You could do a 20 card package, save $30. Save on even the 10 race card package. But to use SRLQ, Stats Race Lens quarter 50S, 50S, and get 50% off your subscription, whatever it is that you want to use. We want you to use the forum. Show them where the forum is again, Ellis.
I lost you again.
That's all right. But the icon, the little chat icon, anybody will help you with questions, and the development team ready to help you at a moment's notice. Have a tremendous weekend. We have unbelievable racing. It's continuing right now at Del Mar, but tomorrow, Saratoga, Del Mar, Ellis, everywhere you look. Then on Sunday, Monmouth Park, Haskell Day, and there's a terrific Sunday card as well, the Clement Hirsch Unique Bella on Sunday at Del Mar. You've also got tomorrow the half-sister of American Pharaoh, debuts in the first at Del Mar. We have the Shoe V here at Saratoga Sunday. Really just tremendous racing. The Jim Dandy, the summer action, really red hot. Ellis, have a terrific weekend. Christina, thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good.